Hey, this is Paige Ruderman, and this is the So Rude podcast. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the So Rude podcast. I'm your host, Paige Ruderman, and today I am extra excited because we have not one, but two incredible guests joining us from Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore's Marching Ravens are the largest musical organization in the NFL, with more than 150 members, bringing the music and the energy to every Ravens home game. And today, we're getting to know the men behind the band, people who keep the tradition alive and the stadium rocking week after week. First, we have John Ziemann, band president and unofficial historian. John first joined the original Baltimore Colts band in 1962 and has held nearly every role since, from percussionist to music librarian, before becoming band president in 1984. He even appeared in the ESPN's 30 for 30, The Band That Wouldn't Die, which told the world how the band kept Baltimore's football spirit alive. And joining us as well is Daniel Fake, the band's music director. Dan has been part of the Marching Ravens since 2004, starting as a saxophonist and working his way through leadership roles to now directing the music and designing the game day experience for Ravens fans. Dan has been instrumental, literally and figuratively, in raising the standard of the band. Under his direction, the Marching Ravens have streamlined auditions and leadership selection, reimagined the game day experience, and taken the band's musicianship and consistency to a whole new level. I had the privilege of performing with the Marching Ravens myself during the 2021 season, so this episode is especially meaningful for me. John and Dan, thank you so much for being here. I'm thrilled to have you both on the show.
It's an honor.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to have you, and I'm thrilled we could make this happen. I'd love to start with when you both first found your love for music, because you've dedicated your careers to really highlighting what it brings to people and lovers of music. So, John, would you like to tell us where it all began for you?
I was one of these kids who was a nerd. I'm going to say it now, full-fledged nerd. Um, I started as 5 or 6, just banging. Fine. My father said to my mother, get him drum lessons or do something. So I started about 6 years old, learning how to read music. And then I just fell in love with it, doing drum corps, doing high school band drum major, doing junior high, um, senior drum corps. It just was something that, like I said, I loved. And then in 1956, I went to my first Baltimore Colts game and fell in love with everything, the whole game, and especially the band. And I wanted to be in that band. And I went out in 1962 for an audition. Didn't think I was going to make it. And lo and behold, I did. And I've been there ever since.
That's incredible. And Daniel, how about yourself? When did you first find your love for music?
I remember singing, doing things like in church when I was little, as young as preschool and singing every year in school. And then I wanted a saxophone early elementary and had to wait until fourth grade. But I remember at some point I said, no, not saxophone. I want to play tuba. That only lasted a little bit. Then I went back to saxophone and started playing a clarinet at some point in like eighth grade. We found I think it was in one of my grandparents' attic or something like that, and went back to tuba in high school. But saxophone was still the main instrument there for a long time. And so if it's something brass, something woodwind, something singing, got a little bit of piano skill. I can make my way around the piano as long as I don't have to do so in front of an audience. Um, but it's been pretty much my whole life. I remember doing something musical. I can't really tell you what sparked it. I just remember that it's always been there, and so it's fun to be able to take it to this level and all that hard work and dedication, and the support from parents. As John said, get that kid a drum. Well, it takes parents to be able to get all of us here, and so it's a lot of commitment on their end. It's fun to see that. Hey, you remember that time? Now we're doing this, and so it's really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and how one choice kind of sparks the next choice. So like, oh, playing on drums or singing in the shower, in the car, and how that
Mhm.
leads one after the other. And props to you for playing the tuba. I feel like that is looks like the heaviest instrument ever, having to lug that around.
I think the baritone is actually worse marching band. The tuba, when you do the bell front, it's up on the shoulder, but the baritone, you have all that weight right in front of you. You got to hold it out there, and so I think the baritone is probably worse. There's a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
very
weight, but you can rest it on your shoulder, or a sousaphone wraps around the body.
that's very true. I played the clarinet, so I couldn't have been lighter. Strategically, actually, it fit in my backpack, which was how the decision was made.
Good plans, good plans.
So, are both of you from the Baltimore area originally?
Well, I was born and raised in East Baltimore, so I'm a Baltimorean through and through.
I am from York County, Pennsylvania, and we're about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour north of Baltimore. It usually takes me about an hour to get to rehearsals. And game day's a little bit longer if we were to go to the stadium, but we're just a lot of commuter traffic goes from York down to Baltimore. And I've been here my whole life as well.
Oh, that's incredible. And it's really a nice reminder how close the states are up north. I'm currently located in Nashville, and, Tennessee is quite large. And, you talk to people, they're like, oh, it takes me like 6, 7, 8 hours to get somewhere. I'm like, oh, 45 minutes on 95 used to get me
Mhm.
pretty far. So, as for the band, the Baltimore Marching Ravens, I'd love to start right from the beginning. For listeners or people tuning in who might not be familiar with the full history, John, would you be able to tell us a little bit about how the Baltimore Marching Ravens came to be and what makes this band so unique in the NFL?
Well, Paige, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's a band on the face of the earth that has a history and heritage that we have. We were founded September 7th, 1947, for the original Baltimore Colts. At the end of the 1950 season, the team was sold back to the league and the band was orphaned. So from 1951, 52, the band stayed together and promoting Baltimore back into professional football. 1953, the Dallas Texans went bankrupt and they were moved to Baltimore. And the reason they kept the name Colts is because the band kept the name alive. And then they adopted the band. Then, of course, 1984, we lost the team to Indianapolis. For 11 years, the band proceeded. We always said the Colts left by the cover of darkness. The band proceeded by the light of day. And we did 30 NFL halftime shows. We also played a major part in getting the stadium bill passed by going down one evening and lobbying the state legislature to build the stadium. And it's in the Maryland Congressional Record that went for the band getting these extra votes that would never have passed. Then when the Browns came to Baltimore and the Modell family that owned the Browns took the Colts band, the foundation of the Colt band, and built the Marching Ravens on it. And here we are 78 years later of continued operation.
That is fascinating. And to your point, just the history of how the team came to be and how the band thrived even as so much change was happening throughout their history. You had shared with me and also the ESPN program that I mentioned, the band that wouldn't die, walked through the story of how the band went to the Senate to help get that passed. And would you mind sharing a brief little story about that? Because I thought it was just so passionate and fascinating.
We only had, or the state had only had 53 days to get the stadium bill passed for the funding to build a football stadium. And Governor Schaefer made that known. We had to do it. We only had 1 week left. And Bob Douglas was a press secretary for Governor Schaefer, called me and said, it's not going to pass. We need 4 votes. And I told the band this, and they said, like hell. And we organized, went down there on the evening session of the state legislature. We played a concert as the senators and the congressmen were coming in to the state house. Next thing you know, we had a rally going. We were playing the fight song. I would do the speech. The flag line would be handing out flyers and brochures why we needed financially to build this stadium and get a team back here. And it became a rally. And next thing you know, Mike Miller, the president of the Senate, God bless him, he's gone, called me on the side, says, "Do you mind ending this?" I said, "Sure, Mike, because they're all out here and I got a state to run." So we sort of ended it. They got us into the state house. Um, and they took the whole band in, did a joint session, presented with a proclamation. The next day, Bob Douglas called me and said, "You're not going to believe this. The spirit of this band passed on to the state and the house. And I think we're going to get the 4 votes. I'm not sure." He said, "But it looks positive because of the band." Friday, I get a call and I said, "Hello." They said, "It passed." I said, "Who's this?" They said, "Will Schaefer, the governor." He said, "We didn't get 4 votes, we got five." And everybody who changed their votes stood up. And again, it's in the congressional record, Maryland congressional record. It's because of the band being down here. Here's a bunch of band geeks got a stadium bill passed. So that, like I said, and I still have the proclamation in our archives. That's all there.
That's incredible. And just to know that music, it's such a part of life. It's like infused in all of our celebrations and our festivals, and to know that that was even part of the historical relevance of keeping a football team in the city of Baltimore. That's so cool. And John, you've been part of this program for over 60 plus years now. How have you seen the band evolve since those early days? Since you went from playing in it to now and then helping in different leadership roles and now serving as band president, you've truly seen the whole spectrum.
Well, again, Paige, like you said, the whole spectrum, how things have changed. Not only at our band, but as things moved forward in all music, music has changed. Halftime shows have changed. Uh, our pregame show has totally changed, and making it more exciting. Musicians, like I said, the musicians have been upgraded because in time, people learn better music and better skills and playing. And that's where Danny came in. What he has did this year has been fantastic. Or not this year, the last few years. He came to me a few years ago and said, "I really need to make things different." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I really need to upgrade the band. And I'm going to start first, with the marching and see how we can do that. And then we're going to do music." But he put it together. And that's why right now this band is phenomenal because of him and his staff, what they're doing. I mean, they've been, out around the world and they've been asked to come around the world. They're going to Canada in a few weeks. They've been to London twice. That's something Danny could more or less talk about. But it has evolved. I mean, I just seen the percussion, even the instrumentation has changed totally. And we have kept up with every bit of it.
Yeah, and thank you so much for helping introduce all of the impact Daniel has brought to the band, and especially the musicality and the musicianship the band showcases every time that they step, whether it's on a field or parade. Dan, you joined back in 2004 as a saxophone player. What was that like for you? How did you learn about the band? Like, how did you even get involved?
I graduated from college. I think it was the May of 20 or no, yes, 2003, May of 2003, and got a job in Baltimore County starting in January of '04. So um, I happened to be watching a Steelers Ravens game, and the band was on the TV, and this was between Christmas and New Year's. And so it was less than a week before I was going to start teaching. Coming in January, it was just I need a job. I want a teaching job. We're going to start there, and I loved the marching arts. It's just something that resonated very well with me throughout high school and college. And I saw the band was on TV, featured. I think as they're coming back from a TV timeout, and I said I'm going to do that. And it just coincidentally when I started teaching, I learned that I ended up I was teaching choir, and the band director was in the band, so that was a very easy connection right there. The first night I went out, my audition was John asking, "Did she tell you what you're getting into? You teach, right? All right, here's your music." That was my audition. Um, so, that was a bit of a as we got into those first rehearsals, just kind of getting used to the culture of the bands, very different from school bands because we're meeting once a week. We're all coming from different backgrounds. We're all coming from different careers, different lives. We got families versus being that individual responsible for just yourself in college or relying on mom and dad at going through high school. Now we've got bands who are responsible for other human beings, and we've got careers, and it was a very different sort of atmosphere. The rehearsal facilities at that time were out at the Howard County Fairgrounds. And so you never knew sometimes what type of grass you were going to be getting because I think John, correct me. I remember one time we were in a parking lot that had sloped in three directions.
Right,
And I also remember there was is it the outside of, is it arena where they would do like showing of the animals outside the one building?
right. It was, like I said, a big shelter. Plus, we had another big building which was enclosed, no heat, no air conditioning. We called it the Cow Palace. And a lot of times our crew had to get in there and clean up the animal droppings so we can practice. And also on the parking lot, it was a grass lot. A crew got at 4 o'clock and started, and I was there with them cleaning up the field. And once in a while, you hear a band member go, "Oh man, we missed something." So it was rough times, but we made it happen.
Yeah. So that was a bit of an eye opener. Sometimes I look back and it's amazing that the band is still here from the things that John did and the rehearsal spaces that were available right now. We cannot top our rehearsals. We are in the field house right where the team practice is, and it is a phenomenal facility to be able to rehearse. And it really has allowed us to improve the quality of what we're doing, the consistency of having a field that we can rely on. We don't have to worry about the climate control. Oh, it just started pouring, so now we're not going outside for rehearsal. We don't have to worry about that. We're under roof. The quality of the musicianship this year is probably this year especially has far exceeded previous years of the band. We've had some continuous growth, but the especially our woodwinds, it is phenomenal. The way their fingers are moving right now is awesome. So we're able to challenge the band in ways that we haven't been able to in the past. It's been fun to see from where we are to where we were to where we are right now.
Congratulations to the both of you and all of the leadership staff to have a vision for saying we want to elevate what we're putting out each time. What does that take? Like, what are some of the steps that it takes to say, okay, we have this great established foundation of a band and we have really big aspirations for where we can go? What are some of the steps that you would take to try and like help move that? Of course, it doesn't happen overnight. So, like, what are some of the things that you've done to help get yourselves there?
It's small steps, very small that you see what works and then leads to another. I use a rule at school that you can't say yes if I don't ask you. And we do the same thing here with Ravens Band. If there's an idea, we ask. They can't say yes if we don't ask. And so we just kind of see, what might work. Here's an idea. Do you think we can do that? And if it doesn't work, we figure out, is there another thing that we can do, or do we need to lead to it first? Our audition process, talking about small increments, our audition process, the first time that we decided that we needed to do a little more formalized audition, we brought in only folks who were brand new to the band, and it was a more formalized music and marching audition, but it didn't impact everyone. And then we went a little bit, we're like, this isn't really quite doing what we need. So then we had to re-audition every couple of years, just to make sure that we're maintaining the quality and that we're pushing ourselves to be better every day. And eventually that led us to we're auditioning every person each year. And that was a multi-year process. The original goal was that we just make sure that we're doing a robust audition process and we're able to grow the band that way. And it's not that our musicians were doing any worse. We weren't deteriorating per se, but we weren't really growing as much as we needed to. And so the audition process that we have right now involves every person auditioning each year, and they come into a blind audition, go through multiple rooms. I think we clocked that when you start the audition process, it might take you about an hour to an hour and a half till you're finished. We have different etudes, we have scale requirements, we have some sight reading, and we have two sections of marching. The music auditions are blind auditions. So you'll have two judges. You'll see the back of their heads or their backs. You'll play for them, and then you go to a different room and you do the next part. And you go to another room, you do a next part. So it's very formalized, letting folks know exactly what you're working on. And because there's so many different people listening, it really is a pretty even kind of it's you don't have to worry about is there one person who's judging harder than another. It very much comes out even in the wash. So, if Paige is listening to the saxophones and she's a saxophone player and she's really hitting them hard for intonation, but John, he's a drummer. He's like, man, that sounds like a good saxophone to me. Awesome. It evens out because you have so many people listening. Musically, I think there's six different judges that will score, and then we average all of those scores together and we choose the top musicians. This year was hard. We ended up having to cut close to 20 people because we just did not have the space to be able to continue with them. But if you had asked me back in 2010, what this would look like, I don't think we would have ever thought. 'Cause somewhere around 2010 is where we started doing that more formalized audition process. And it really this at this point, audition day is a production. There's multiple guest judges. There's a manual for our judges that's something like 50 to 60 pages long, letting them know everything that goes on. The We have some clinics beforehand, which is nice, so we folks can come in and see what exactly is marching ravens. We have opportunity to ask questions and talk. The goal is to make sure that in that case that the band is right for them and that they're a good fit for the band. Because if you're auditioning expecting experiences you got at your college, it might not be that. And then it can lead to a kind of, a very frustrating experience. So it gives the folks the opportunity to just see what they might be auditioning for, what they're going for, what an NFL experience might look like compared to that college. So those little increments, just a little bit here, a little bit there. And sometimes we experiment with something and see how it goes. London was a great experiment for us. We were able to take the first time we went to London, we took I want to say 9 or 11 musicians. I can't remember the exact. It's not a large contingency of the band, but because it was such a small group, we were able to experiment with a few things that we wouldn't normally do with the full band, and then we brought those back to the full band. It was just kind of like, hey, why don't we try this? And we just do it. We were playing one of the pieces we played was Louie Louie, and we forgot there's a drum break. We didn't have any drums. So we had to, after one flub, we figured out, oh, we can repeat this one line in the trumpets and we can add a Ravens cheer in there and boom, rest of the season, we repeat the trumpets and we have a Ravens cheer in there. And then we figured out, this song mashes up with another song. And we've now taken two completely different pieces, we mashed them together. And now it starts to be more of an intentional, well, what else can we mash together? Where can we extend the music? Where can we, because by extending the music, we are maintaining the audience connection. You take 15 seconds between a song. Well, game day concert, those 15 seconds, that's enough time for a person to walk completely past the band and hear nothing. So, how much can we do with a very brief turnaround in between pieces? And it is all experimentation. One of the things that we really like to do is hide Easter eggs in our music. When we arrange it for the Ravens band, we quote the fight song in the arrangement somewhere. So it's really fun to be able to figure out where you hide that. And I think some band members get a kick out of it because they're like, "Oh, that's a fight song," and then other band members are like, "Oh, not this again," because sometimes it's kind of tongue in cheek, but sometimes it's actually really well hidden, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't even realize," because it just flows so smoothly. Again, it's little bits and pieces that it's like, I wonder if we can, and then you try it, and yeah, we can, and it just kind of leads to the next thing, to the next thing. Kristen Monroe is our pep band. Yeah, yes,
I've met Kristen. She's
oh,
incredible. Yeah.
good. She is phenomenal. A lot of the things that happen with our appearances do come into the full band. Kristen does a phenomenal job with appearances with pep band, with our brass band, and helping to connect the community. And through that experience, it's very informal. What they will do in the pep band, because it's so informal compared to the full band, they might do some crowd interaction, do some dancing, and when it goes over well, we experiment with that with the full band. So now it's not just standing in position, you know, feet together, and that perfect marching band stance. It is much more relaxed. It is much more informal because that is what the audience is looking. They're not looking for that regimented at a football game. They're looking to engage, and the body engages just as much as the music. When we
Yeah.
marched down Ravens Walk from our concert location at Oriole Park to Gate A, which is the main gate there at M&T Bank Stadium, we stop at there's an overpass and there's some food trucks, and we'll play Seven Nation Army, and then the fight song. What started was, let's see, I think someone asked us to do that just to get a little bit more reaction, and we did the marching band thing. We stood in position, parade formation, we played it. Someone started doing some horn bumps, and then we started moving around, and now we're dancing down. Now it is just full on chaos. And then the band hears the chant come back in before a fight song, and we get into formation, and we step off like nothing has happened. And it's little bits and pieces that have happened, one or two here, one or two there. There's no season that has been a huge change in what we're doing. It's just we try something and then it evolves, and we try something and it evolves, and it just a little bit here, a little bit there. So we are a very different band from where we were in 2004 when I joined.
Just hearing so much of the thought and logistics behind how do you start to elevate a group and go through the growing pains and et cetera. And you had so many nuggets in there that I definitely want to highlight. The first thing you said, which was fascinating, and I had never thought of it before, was the 15 seconds that a band could be flipping to the next page or just waiting for the call. What are we going to play next?
Hmm.
People could leave. And then a whole crowd that you had just worked so hard to gather around dissipates.
Yeah,
And how do you shorten that piece? Because at the end of the day, you're entertaining. You're entertaining the crowd. You're
right.
trying to, it's game day. You want to keep people happy and excited. And that's fascinating. I've never thought about that before. And so cool that you guys have that on your finger on the pulse of that. And the other thing that you mentioned, which was so cool, was that the pep band went to London. The Ravens are becoming a global, worldwide phenomenon. What is
Mhm.
that like? And what are some other cool places that the band has been?
Well, as of now, it's been London twice, and this we're coming up to Canada twice. I've been fortunate enough to go to London both times. I haven't been able to go to Canada, not with bands, but the London trips were phenomenal. Our first time was very much an eye opener because first time that sort of travel, and the international travel was I teach middle school. So Ravens experiences versus school experiences are so very different that it was it was almost surreal. It was it's kind of you bring it, you just take it all in to figure out how different this is and how how fortunate we are to be able to do this activity in this setting. The connections that we made though in London were phenomenal. And game day, we are the first connection to the team oftentimes because we are right there. We can talk with folks. They see us. We're very much in high five distance. You're not going to get that to the team because very different, different, spaces, of course. In London, we're going out into communities. We're going to pubs. We're playing from the top of the double-decker buses. We are going around Trafalgar Square playing the Ravens fight song. We are bringing the Ravens to that international audience. And the first time that we went, we played an obscene amount of music. It was we knew that we needed to plan a lot, but the amount of places that we went and the number of times we were playing, it's like, oh my gosh. It was just we were keeping track, and we had played our fight song. I think it was like 75 times. We
Oh
were
my
there.
gosh.
We were there 4 days. So the amount of music that we were playing is phenomenal. But that international audience, you mentioned earlier about how close the states are in the Northeast. Well, we met some folks from Germany. We met some folks from Spain, Portugal. They fly in for the game that day, and then they leave that day. because it's that close that you can do that. And the German flock is very strong. They remembered us the second trip. We're standing on the streets of London playing outside the Ravens pub, and this guy comes up to me and says, I remember you from the last time. And where's Kristen? He remembered both of us
Oh my
from
gosh.
that first trip. It was that was again a surreal thing. This guy, I mean, this is we didn't see this guy since, for 4 years, and he remembers who we are from the band. So that connection is just phenomenal. And I mentioned the Canada, but I we went to the Hall of Fame twice as well, the Hall of Fame parade, and that was really fun to do. Also, that was a full band trip. And John, would be remiss if I didn't mention Macy's in 2007 full band trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John can actually speak more to that because I was a little younger on staff. But the Hall of Fame parades were extremely fun to do because it is a full band trip. It's not just small representation. And the Hall of Fame event is an NFL event. It's NFL fans. It's folks who are there for their team and marching down the streets of Canton, and the number of people go, I didn't know the Ravens had a band, or asking, is that's not a that's not a college. Those folks are too old. That's not kids. That's adults. Who'd they hire? No, we are the Baltimore Ravens. And so getting the exposure to that different audience, to that new crowd, it's fun to see the reactions. My favorite Hall of Fame parade event was for Ray Lewis because Ray Lewis' signature song is "Hot in Here." So we mashed up Hall of Fame with "Hot in Here." He didn't hear it, but the way that it comes in, the band comes in this way, the players come in this way. So we're facing Ray Lewis, and we're playing Hot in Here. And just the look of I think his daughter was with him and
Right.
got his attention, and the look on his face when he realized what we were doing that was a fun thing to be able to do. John, you want to talk about Macy's at all?
Well, we tried for close to 10 years to do Macy's. And finally I said, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. A lot of the band members came to me and said, please, one more time, please. I said, okay, this is it. One more time. If we don't get it, that's going to be finished. Well, we did the invitation that they sent us. We sent in all the videos, music, and then one day I get a call, and they said, "This is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This is Wesley Wetlam. We want you in the Macy's Parade for 2007." I went nuts. And they could hear me scream all through my work. And I said, "But you can't tell anybody." I said, "Oh man, not right now." But we went up there, and you're supposed to come in the morning and spend the night. Well, we didn't. We got permission not to, and because they do a whole run of the parade
Oh.
that morning, and then you go back to your hotel. Then you come back, to the beginning of the parade. So they gave us a special exemption that we didn't have to do the run through, that we wouldn't stop and perform, but we'd do a march through. And I said, that's fine with me. And the coverage they gave us, if you go to Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Baltimore's Marching Ravens, you'll see the great coverage that NBC gave to us. And that to me is one of the highlights. That's one of my bucket list of what I wanted this band to do. And Pro Football Hall of Fame, parades, so many things. Like I said, I'm just scratching it off. But the Macy's parade was just phenomenal, and the band performed. They were fantastic. We got nothing but accolades, even from NBC. So maybe someday we'll go back.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal to go back. And then I know there's also a Philadelphia New Year's Day parade with the mummers and everything. That would be super cool if the Ravens band could perform in that as well.
Well, we did that as the Colt band, and we did it as the Marching Ravens.
Again, you're just checking things off the list. You're getting a
Yeah,
Both of those were before my time.
yeah.
So they got
We,
to do
Yeah,
it again. So that way you can participate and that way it can be on your bucket list too.
there we go.
And Dan, okay, so this is something that really fascinates me,
Okay.
and especially people tuning in that might be songwriters or
Mhm.
artists or creatives, and they're making their own music out there. I'm really fascinated by when you're designing the musical experience. You mentioned for the Hall of Fame picking Hot in Here by Nelly because that was a favorite for the person being honored. How, when you look at the bigger season, how do you choose songs for a season? How do you arrange them so that way you're like highlighting them and that way they sound full and that they fit within like a stadium environment?
Mhm.
I'm really curious how that works.
That it varies sometimes from season to season, sometimes from timeline to timeline, and purpose to purpose. We have our pregame show, which has a is dedicated to the Ravens, is specific to the Ravens, and that has been an evolving thing. It's a slow evolution. I think we're really only in our third version of pregame over the last 20 seasons, and um, sometimes it changes quite frequently, or the desire is to change quite frequently, and the conversations go back and forth on that one. The earliest pregame I remember, and John can maybe touch on this a little bit better too. But as I was a saxophone player, was we played Festive Overture as a fanfare. We played something else, and then we ran in through to Script Ravens and played the fight song. So, and I don't remember what that piece in the middle was.
We
Um,
rotated it.
was that a some changed?
We had a
Okay,
rotation,
gotcha. Then we evolved into there was something from a movie that kind of fit that Raven's personality, followed by some pieces that would change from week to week. The beauty of that was that it was some variety to it, but the downfall was that we were not able to effectively or very well put the music into drill where it would constantly change, and it led to some things that weren't as great as what we want them to be. But that was also, part of that evolution. It's like let's try and see where we're at. And so right now we are into a Ravens specific pregame where we play a fanfare called Fanfare Raven. We have a piece called Relentless that's about it's variations on our fight song, but it's all about that Ray Lewis defense because it was relentless. It was just constant pounding, pounding, push, push, push. There was no quits, and so that's how we pulled the name Relentless. We have a piece called Call of the Wild, like the Ravens call. But now our current evolution is that we are working on providing that variety without deteriorating the quality of drill. So our earlier versions, we would have stock charts and we would rotate those out. Well, as you can imagine, stock charts aren't always the same phrasing, the same count structure. If you got a piece in three, it's a 24 count phrase. A piece in four is a 32 count phrase. And so that that was some of the hiccups that were in there. We've currently been developing music that fits exactly the same count structure. So Relentless was written specifically for the band. Monday, we're about to go into Monday Night Football. We're going to play Paint It Black, but it's been designed to have exactly the same count structure as Relentless. So the drill does not change. We don't have to deteriorate the quality of drill to provide variety of music. Later on this season, we're going to substitute a piece for Call of the Wild called In Pursuit of Victory. And it again follows the same exact count structure. Call of the Wild starts in four, goes into three, and ends in four. There are no stock charts that fit that.
No.
So getting this design to go with it, it was the trickier part, and that actually has taken us about a year and a half to figure out how do we get this do we completely change call? If we completely change call, it does take some time to get up and running and is really impactful for the band. So that is our pregame, and we end with the fight song every game. And we've tried a couple so we do block Ravens. We have done it front sideline, then turn around, play back sideline. Um, just this past Sunday, we did block Ravens and went into script Ravens, which was John can share a pretty huge hit on social media that we did Ravens and script. So
yeah.
we little evolutions there. For our halftime shows, it kind of comes down to purpose a lot. We have the Salute to Service show. So it's your military service songs, something a little patriotic. And so there, it's not so much the flexibility of the design of the music. It's more of a how do we tell the story? How do we honor the service members? We'll do a holiday show, and that is trying to pull out what are tunes that people like, but can also be impactful, can flow well together. Those shows are something like that. The holiday show will be arranged beginning to end most of the time. Sometimes we'll get some stock charts and put them together, but a lot of times we're going to start at the beginning and work our way through and bring those together so it's specific to our band. One of my favorite ones, Kristen has been doing that arrangement actually. She loves to, or at least she says that she's got an idea and we'll let her go with it. I'm not sure if she loves it, but she does a really, really good job with it. And so usually if she tells me she's got something, we're gonna let her go with it. And it always turns out phenomenal. She's a great musician, great arranger, great teacher. So she knows the band's strengths and weaknesses really well to highlight those. We did a show called Back in Black twice now, and that was through composed. What tied it together was the guitar riff from AC/DC's Back in Black. Is because we designed it for the when the team wears black jerseys, and so that was fun because it went from beginning to end to tell this just to tie in with the theme of the black jersey basically. And so it's all the painted black, Back in Black. Black Widow was fairly popular at that point. The theme from Men in Black. So it's all those pieces that kind of get mashed together. But sometimes we'll also do something that's more of a stock chart show, and we just pick out some pieces that fit well together, and we'll make a show kind of like that. It's a little bit easier on the music design for us because we just listen to some tunes and pick them out, but it's not designed specifically for our band. So we do have a wide range of how we do this, and sometimes we'll look at whether we're really trying to feature a big moment. So like the Back in Black show, that was a very big moment. Black jerseys. I think we actually designed it for the first time the team wore the black. I think it was a black and black jersey, black pants, and it was a night game, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that, but it was a very big moment that we designed it specifically for. If it's a 1 o'clock game against a team that's not within the division and won't be very competitive most often, or won't be not necessarily not competitive, but it won't have as big of an impact throughout the season. Oftentimes, those are they don't have the energy of, say, the Steelers, the Browns, or the Bengals, and so those shows might not have as much wow factor to them because they aren't as big of a moment. But we're still trying to tell a story through music
Yeah.
and make a solid connection. We don't want to just go and say, I like that tune. All right, I like this one. I like that one. Cool. All right, let's make a show. We try and thread it together in some way.
I love that. You're curating the show based off of what's happening, either environmentally, based off the game that you're playing, or what's happening time of year. And I'm so happy you mentioned this because for anyone who hasn't seen the Baltimore Ravens marching band before, this is a true marching band. They are in full uniform, they are doing parades, and they are marching on the field. Like if you are a Ravens fan or have had a chance to attend M&T Bank Stadium and you walk in on game day, you are seeing a band actually on the field performing. Drill is where you're moving from spot to spot on the field and in connection with the music that you're playing, and you're actually performing for the fans that are there. And I still remember my very first, I have to tell this story really fast. My very first game day, we were waiting in the tunnel, and I believe it was you, John. You were like, who's a rookie? And everyone raised their hand that was a rookie. And you're like, go peek out the end of the tunnel and like see the stadium for the first time before you're literally like running on there to perform. And I remember walking over there and peeking my head out. I'm like, this is truly a stadium. Like I don't think I'd ever even been in a stadium, let alone been on the field of a stadium before, and it was truly such a cool experience. So yeah, this is a real marching band. They're actually on the field playing their instruments in their uniforms. And something that you were talking about was the evolution of small steps and as you're elevating your purpose. And I'd love to know, how do you balance the tradition aspect and honoring all of the history and all of the background that has brought the band from where it began to where it is today? So how do you keep the tradition elements? What are those that you never want to say goodbye to? And then how do you find places to add new traditions along the way?
Well, I think we keep our traditions, like I said before, when I gave the history and heritage, and we also add new ones. There's so many of them. And when we designed our current history brochure, it was so much that I have two lockups full of nothing but band history and artifacts. And when we designed this, Tori Namick, our boss, we had a open brochure. Well, the way I designed it, it would have been like that. And Tori went, no, no, no. So we had to cut down, but the history and heritage that we have in this band, like I said before, is phenomenal. And we have to do pick and choose. And we create new traditions, new history, especially for the new generation of the people coming in. They deserve to create new history and heritage to move forward. And that's like I said, we love our old history, but we create new. And also the Raven fans, they're always creating something new, and we want us take it and we run with it and be part of it. So, like I said, it never ends. And this is like I said, the Ravens, 30 seasons now. And we capitalize on their history and they capitalize on ours. We couldn't do it without the Ravens front office. They have been fantastic. I mean, they say it takes a village, and it's a Ravens village. There's not a department in the Ravens front office that doesn't touch this band and make it a success and make it move forward. So we've been really, really blessed. And that's one of the things of success for this band, along with the tradition and history.
How much does having the support of the office, and you said it takes a village, like how does that help the band shine? Because there's so many different elements. There's ownership, there's managers, there's general managers, there's marketing, there's the front office. It's like how does having their support help the band continue to do all the impressive work that they've done?
We could do without them. There's no way. Like I said, I've been under six professional football ownerships in this city, and nobody will top, and I mean nobody will top the Baltimore Ravens under Mr. Bisciotti. And there's no way. They give us unlimited support. The marketing department is there for us 100%. Mr. Brad Downs, VP of Marketing, our direct boss, Ms. Tori Namick, they're there almost 24/7 for us. And they come up with ideas too. We meet once a month, Dan and the two or three other, Kristen Monroe and Kim Smith, our percussion instructor, myself, and also with the front office of the marketing department. And like I said, the ideas start to flow and the excitement start to flow. We just can't wait to get down to the field house to share it with the band. So, like I said, whatever we need, of course, we had to stay in realm of a budget. But and then look with Dan updating everything, you got to move forward. And the Ravens are there with us 100%. And again, I've been through six professional football ownerships, and nobody will top this Ravens organization.
I think some of the other things that help us out and how important that relationship is we are a brand ambassador. And so if we understand what the brand is desires and what they want to be able to do, we can make that happen. But at the same time, this is all part-time job for us. We dedicate a lot of time to it, and we want to be and we're passionate about it. But at the end of the day, it is a part-time job, and we can't necessarily do all of the things that they have the ability to do. Within the marketing department, they're doing visual graphics for social media. They're coordinating appearances. They are making connections with media. They're letting us know with network when we were doing the Amazon Prime theme for Thursday Night Football. I think it was 2 years ago. They're making those connections, and it without those relationships and their ability to do that and communicate to us, we would not have the ability to then make that connection for the brand. And it's different expertise coming together for a common goal. And without that, I don't think that we would be as successful as what we are.
And you mentioned that the all the staff and all the members,
Mhm.
this is part-time. They're putting hours a week into it, but it fits within their larger schedule. Can you talk us through what a typical game day looks like? So you're meeting for practice I think you said once a week, and then you're getting together for game day, and all these things then have to work in sync very well. What does a typical game day look like from the minute you guys arrive through the end?
John arrives quite a bit earlier than everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you just
The
sleep in the office? Do you just like camp out the night before?
Close to it.
yeah, the beauty of that is that when I get there, I am there to make sure the rehearsal and everything is performance is ready to go, and we don't have to worry about anything else. And I don't think that that would be possible if it weren't for the lead work that John does. And our so if we start from the musician standpoint, the musicians rehearsal starts approximately 5 hours before kickoff. Sometimes we fluctuate a little bit earlier than that because of say primetime game traffic. We need to bump it up a little bit, or if there's a big event, we have to bump it up. And I believe our crew is what, a half an hour before or
Yeah.
45 minutes before that, and
Cool.
that's get the equipment, the uniforms ready to go. When rehearsal starts, is it's pretty much a structured formula at that point, and every schedule on game day counts backwards from kickoff and will then include any major events that might be taking place along the way if there's something unusual. But let's say it's a generic 1 o'clock Sunday game, nothing special. 5 hours before kickoff is rehearsal. Rehearsal lasts about 90 minutes. We take a half an hour to change, pick up our game day lunches, head to the bus. Travel to the stadium will be about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, which will get us to Oriole Park right around 11 o'clock. And we'll do another brief warm up, kind of get our brains, our ears, our music into game day focus and performance mode. And then, depending on our timing, we might march around the north side of the Oriole Park, or we might march around the south side. If we go the north side, we do a little performance on the sidewalk across from the pubs, and then we'll go down Utah Street through Oriole Park and come out at our concert, which is really awesome on the night games when late in the season, it's dark, you got the lights there. It's a really cool vantage point as we march down through there. Our concert will be about a half an hour, and then about 70 minutes before kickoff, we march to the stadium. And though the 70 minutes sounds like it's really a long time before a kickoff, but it goes so quickly. It'll take us about 10 minutes to march from Oriole Park down to the stadium. And we have to clear gate A by a certain point, that first gate. And then it gives us a little bit of a breather on the loading dock area, the service level, before we go in and perform. And our performance will be about 20 minutes before a kickoff. And the performance lasts about 6.5 to 7 minutes before we go into player introductions. And at that point, it's game time. It is the fastest 5 hours of the day because it is just one thing right after another, after another, after another. And depending on what those shows are, what's happening on game day, we might have to do some music rehearsal, we might have to do a pregame rehearsal, we may have to do a halftime rehearsal. So 90 minutes, we're checking big things, checking big pictures. Coming up, we do have Monday Night Football, so that's shifting our timeline back so that we can get to the stadium a little bit earlier. And so it's based off of where do we have to be when? What are the big events? When we did Thursday Night Football and we're able to play the prime theme for network, they wanted a specific time, so we had to figure out, okay, what time do we need to leave concert to get to the stadium to be there for that event? So, but at the same, all these things are pretty well regimented. In the 20 years that I've been in the band, 20 plus actually, I don't think that we've modified our game day schedule more than a handful of times from that 5 hour kickoff. And they were usually just because there's major events. We did a joint performance with Morgan State a couple years ago, and I think we had an earlier report time on that game,
Right.
if I remember correctly. It really does it's pretty regimented and down to a science.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating because I getting a chance to be part of the Ravens, you're so used to marching band if you were in college or in high school, and you're joining this new group, and as you get more comfortable you fall into a routine, but like we're talking about the NFL, which is one of the largest organizations showcasing sports on TV, and this is a band that supports, it's one of only two bands in the entire NFL that is associated with a team. Was it really intimidating? I know both of you are so seasoned in your roles now, but when you were first getting involved, was there any nervousness or any sort of like, wow, this is the NFL? That's kind of crazy.
Even back in my day, when I joined the band in 1962, the NFL was only 42 years old. So that shows you how long I've been there. But even then, it was intimidating because, like I said, you saw all your heroes, your football heroes, and all of a sudden you're on the same field with them. You're marching, right past them. My God, what a thrill. What a total thrill. And I think that's what I enjoy watching the younger people that come into the band, the rookies, to see their face light up. This looks like Christmas to them. But I think everybody, like I said, gets a thrill and excitement of being there. And we sit right next to the visitors. So we got to be good visiting teams. So we got to be good boys and girls to a point. Yeah.
Yeah, so the band from the year that I was in the group, the band sits right on the field. As soon as they're done the pregame show, they turn around and they get off the field as quickly as possible into a section right there on the green. That is so cool. For many of those people, they've only seen football on TV. Like they might have not even been in a stadium, let alone on the grass of a stadium before. That is so cool. What's it like being that close to all the action?
We got to be careful because, like I said, you're only a few feet from the actual playing field. A few years ago, Lamar, our quarterback, uh, had the ball. He ran off the field. He was being chased, and he was heading right for the band. And he got right to the railing where the band is. We have like, padding and all. And he almost flipped over. And as he's flipping over, he got his grasp and he came back and he's staring right at the band. And he went, "Hello, band." And everybody just broke up. And he gave us a number one up finger and then ran back on the field. So, like I said, the band members, they were like, jumping up and down. They were so excited. But the band is professional. They know to watch out when they have to go to the restroom and go into the tunnel, and they watch out that there's no action on that side of the field that's at the other and on the east side, but the west side of the field. So they learn very, very fast, and also the section leaders teach them, and our staff tries to tell them as much as possible. So it is a professional situation, not like college, but a lot of times colleges sit up in the stands the way we used to.
That's a wild story about Lamar being
Yeah.
inches, feet away from the man. Are there any other funny or wild moments from games that stand out in your memory?
I remember we did a there was a stint in the band where we were experimenting with having a rock band as part of the band's part of a section because we don't have a front ensemble. And so it was a way to get a different timbre in there, get a different connection point. And I think we were doing a Bon Jovi show. And I remember Justin Tucker coming out and singing along as he was doing his kicks right at the end of halftime. We did a show, and the team had a saying a couple years ago, maybe more than a couple, but I think it was Big Truz or something like that. We formed that out in the field, and I think it was may have been Hamilton. I think it was Kyle Hamilton. I could be wrong about that too. You shouldn't quote me on the names because I'm not great with that.
Yeah.
But one of the players came out and looked up and he goes, "Hey," and referenced that we had spelled it out in the field. So that was it's meaningful, and and he shook his hands like that's so awesome. We appreciate that, and so that was nice. One of our current band members went to college and had classes with Zay Flowers apparently, and so he got a shout out in the parking lot the other day asking if he was if they if that person would, yeah, I can't remember who it was, but Zay had asked if he was in rehearsal yet. So that was kind of fun. So every now and again we do have those really memorable moments with players, but it's not often.
Like I said, we practice in the field house. This is their private area. We don't go, if they come through the field house, we don't go after them for autographs. We give them the respect that they need. We're in their house. A lot of times the players will come in and watch us, and sometimes come over, once we'll say hello to band members, but we don't say we keep our distance, but we give them respect of what they deserve.
Yeah, everyone's in there to work hard and do a great job
Right.
and put on a great show, whether it's playing football on the field or making magic in the music. Um, s- if I remember correctly, this year is one of the largest band that you have had to date. What does that feel like having reached such a milestone?
Well,
It is
my,
phenomenal.
yeah, with
Uh,
my end, it's like herding cats, but, but
nah,
no, seriously, the, the partnership that Dan and I have, I take care of the administration, he takes care of the music, and it's a great partnership and working together. So we know exactly what's going on and put our heads together and try and solve any kind of problems coming down. But very, very seldom we have that because we have a great group of people and they really love what they're doing.
having such a large ensemble created some interesting challenges that we hadn't had before, and that was where do we make our decisions for audition on audition day? Where are we? Where do we have to draw the line that this person makes and this person doesn't? And so some of it came down to, do we have the equipment? Some of it came down to, if we have really, this section has a few more folks that are stronger, and this section maybe not. So we could actually increase this section. We'll just have to, unfortunately, we have to decrease this one. But we did have a finite number that we had to work with. And then because of our seating being on the field, it was to make sure that we had room for enough seats in that area, because we have to sit within a certain footprint. And so we couldn't, with those 20 people that we had to turn away. I won't say push away, turn away, because of just that sheer number. I'll be honest, I don't know that we would have been able to fit 20 more people within our seating area. I don't think that that would have been physically possible. So it's having this size of a band created challenges there, and new things to look at. But from a musical standpoint, having a larger ensemble means that you don't have folks who are overplaying because they're trying to project more than they need to. We have a well-balanced ensemble. I mentioned the woodwinds earlier as being probably some of the strongest within the band this season, and the things that they are playing, we're finding arrangements that have some more challenging things for woodwinds because we know they can handle it. And because of that balance with a larger ensemble, we're hearing those woodwind parts. We have twice as many clarinets this season as we had last season. I'd still go for more, but to have that more clarinet sound, it makes us a warmer sounding band, and warmer versus brassier often resonates toward an audience because it's not as strident or piercing to the ears. As much as a brassier sound projects in the stadium, we're not always in the stadium, and our closest audience is right there on at concert or in appearances. So having that woodwind sound helps us to be a little bit warmer, and honestly, I think we can connect to the audience a little bit better. Um, we have some really interesting instruments that show up every now and again. Our saxophones, we've got three bari saxes, six tenors, and I believe it's 11 altos this year. And I've gotten the request to bring the soprano out, and we're not bringing the soprano,
No.
but one of our staff members has a bass sax and a sopranino sax. So the bass sax is performing in this coming game because he wanted to play it. So we get to see things like that, and we had Herald trumpets out for the first time in I don't know how many seasons. It's been a lot, but we had them out this past game because it was a recognition of 30 seasons in the NF for the Ravens, and one of our earlier pregame shows involved Herald trumpets, and so we're tying into the past there, but. You can't do that with a smaller band oftentimes. It's just not enough flexibility to be able to do that. So to have a larger ensemble musically is fantastic. Our mellophone section. was playing in four parts because we did a concert march instead of a traditional like Sousa march. It was written more for a concert, and there were four horn parts. So, hey, we've got enough horns. I think you guys can handle it. So, four horn parts, and yeah, again, you can't do that with a smaller band. And
Yeah.
it sounded phenomenal because of the strength of the musicians and the depth and breadth of the sound.
Yeah, and just having a well-balanced sound, like you said, being able to each person, each instrument, each voicing adds so much to the impact to the listener. And so being able to
Mhm.
highlight that and celebrate that is really cool. Leading such a large organization, what's your approach? And it might be different, both you, John, and Daniel. What's your approach to motivating and supporting 150 members? Because that's a lot of personalities, a lot of people in the room. Like, how do you keep them all engaged and excited and ready for each game day?
Z, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Like I said, on the administration end, I'm of old school and I'm available 24/7. That way, if there's any problems, any concerns, that I can get them out of Dan's way or work with people. Um, that's the way I run my administration, that I'm always there and to talk to them and engage them. And if they have a problem, let's talk about it. Let's find out what it is. Let's see if we can solve it to make it better for them and the organization. That way, I try that when Dan walks in that field house, that if there's any problems, I try and get him out of his way so he has clear sailing and to produce the band. But and also, like I said, we try and work very hard behind the scenes while Dan's on the field with our equipment crew. We have a great equipment crew. They're a unit of the band, and it makes things go a lot smoother and motivating them also because they're not on stage.
Hmm.
They're the stage crew, so to speak. So they're not taking the bows like the
Yeah.
band is, but they truly, truly care. And that's, like I said, talking to them to make sure that they know they're appreciated.
Everyone plays a part.
Yes.
For the musician standpoint, motivating is different from from one person to the next. But I try to be as even keel as I can. That doesn't always happen. I'm sure you've experienced in band rehearsals as well. There's the finite deadline that you have to meet, and sometimes we're not getting the job done, and it changes the approach. It changes the messaging that has to happen. But in the field house, there's a banner in the hanging on the end zone. It's win. What's important now? And so we think sometimes, what is important right now? What's important right now is that we need to get this rehearsal done. We need to focus on getting this cleaned and on the field. We need to understand where we fall within the form so that the form is clean. Sometimes that's the motivation. Sometimes the motivation is how do I challenge them so that they don't get bored? Or how can we write this arrangement that's a little bit fun and challenging for the musician? How do we get like that tongue in cheek sort of that was kind of corny, but it was really fun to do sort of thing. It's the wheels turning in your brain to figure out what what will be exciting that's not been done before, or how do we also perhaps bring back something that was done in the past because unlike college and high school, we're not graduating and have a brand new band every 4 or 5 years. We have members of the band who have been there longer than I have, who are still marching. And so for them, sometimes that motivation is we need to pull something that is exciting for them, something that was fun for them. Sometimes we are pulling music or writing music that is current. It's a contemporary. It may only last this season and then it's going to go away, but it's popular right now, and so we're reaching the younger audience. Four parts for the mellophones. Sometimes, it is the motivation pieces will change from person to person, but I think that the fact that we are very goal oriented and very task oriented allows us to come in with a purpose and achieve. The Ravens have a saying, play like a Raven. And we don't often talk about that, but when I think play like a Raven, it's what we do, it's who we are, and it's how we do it. What do? We play. how do you do that? You play like a Raven. This is the Ravens way of doing things. It's not the Browns way. It's not the Steelers way. It's the Ravens way. And this is how it works for our band. And why do we do? Well, because we are a Raven. We are representing something bigger than ourselves. And when we approach things with the what's important now and to play like a Raven, we can set ourselves up for success and lead to those bigger things. Networks, Amazon asked us to play their theme. We didn't ask Amazon, hey, can we play your theme? They came and said, hey, we'd like you to play our theme. And that's an awesome thing is because we are able to motivate the band to become better musicians and play at that higher caliber. And it draws attention in good ways, which then leads to other attention and other opportunities. And that I think is also a motivation for the band. We're still hoping to get to a away trip with a full band. That's on the bucket list, maybe farther down the road than want it to be. But the more that we do things that are positive, the more that we show folks that this is a worthy event, this is a worthy activity. Um, through our audition this year, we've got people coming from significant college programs. We've got three people that went to the college national football championship over the last couple of years with Alabama and Florida State when they were there. So yeah, we're drawing from a really awesome group of musicians, and that one thing leads to another, and it's the motivation to motivate folks to say this is good. Like this is a good culture to be around is probably more important than anything.
Yeah. I love that. And your wish list item of getting a full band trip, that would be super cool. Going along with that is if you could collaborate with any artist for a halftime show, is there one on your bucket list or is there a halftime show that's on your bucket list that you're like, if we could execute this, I think it would be super fun to showcase.
That is a loaded question, but an empty question, unfortunately. Uh, Shoo. I'll be honest, I'm not good with listening to contemporary pop music very much because throughout the day I'm listening to music all day long. It's a lot of sound, and oftentimes I go in silence in the car or it's talk radio or something like that. So I'm really not up to date on current. So if who I could collaborate with, I honestly have no idea. Um, I think it would be great to do it no matter who it is.
Hmm.
I really don't think that there's any one person on my list or who I would say this is the top of my list because I think it would just be great to have any sort of a collaboration. It would be such a fun experience to do, and I think we've got a band that could do it. And then as far as like a show that was like, boy, if we could do this and this is it, I have a running list of concert themes slash marching band shows. I've lost track of how many are on there, but anytime an idea pops into my brain, it's like, oh, that could be a show. Put it on the list. I've with one of the ones I suggest had kind of floated was a road trip going from Baltimore to the Super Bowl. You go across the U.S. playing music from different towns and different areas. So a common thread there. Couple years ago, actually maybe more than a couple. Um, John had a connection with NASA, and our logo made it to space. And so if
What?
we could
That
write,
is so cool.
yeah, he should add to that. Yeah, I have to fill in on that one. I have a list of songs like, hey, we could do a show about this. And so as far as yes, a show that would be geared, there's so many.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to say, this will be my number one. It changes quite frequently.
That's fair. John, how in the world did the Marching Ravens logo make it to space?
Well, Paige, I'm always looking for outs to promote this band. And Dan mentioned before we had a rock group with us, played, and a gentleman named Mark Newman. Mark is a NASA engineer. And there's a young lady who is American hero, Christina Cook. She's an astronaut. And she has been in the International Space Station, and she's a big Marching Ravens fan, real big. And she loved the movie The Band That Wouldn't Die. And I mentioned to Mark, I said, "Do you think she'll take our logo into space and float it? Because she's going up to space." And he said, "Let me ask her." So following week he comes in and said, she said, "Yeah, give her the logo. She'll be glad to take it up and float it in space for us because she's a big fan." So in those days, the Russians were what I call the Uber service. They had to take you up and take you back. Well, she took a copy of the Band That Wouldn't Die and played it for the Russians. I thought that would have a real big. But she took the logo up to space and took quite a few photographs and had pictures of her holding the logo and holding it through the International Space Station. And NASA gave us permission. In fact, it's in the brochure that I sent you, showing it floating in space. And so Christina holding it. So we understand that we are the first NFL logo ever to be floated in space. So that's a big push. Look where we came from in 1947. If somebody told them in 1947 that their band logo was going to be floated in space, that was something like out of a science fiction. People would laugh at them. So we made it everywhere. Now we're in space. Now we're going to see what we can do. She might be going to the moon, so we're going to ask her to take it up and put it on the moon.
Uh, of course. That is incredible. And before we started recording, John and I were chatting, and you made a comment. You were like, I'm already thinking about recruitment. I'm already thinking about next year. For anyone listening in who lives in the Northeast area and they're super inspired by today's conversation and they're interested in getting involved, what do you look for in a musician to join the Marching Ravens?
And I'm let Dan, like I said, I'm the one who did the promotion, but Dan's the one that can tell you exactly what he's looking for.
I'll share a little about the music on audition day and kind of what that looks like. And but the audition is we listen for scales, which tell us that you understand the mechanics of your instrument. You have the range to be able to play music that we're playing. We do some etudes, which are prepared, and that gives you the ability to show the opportunity to show that you have the ability to teach yourself some music, that you understand how to play and read music, which is important, and prepare it because we don't just sight read everything on game day. You know, we're leading up to it, so we want to make sure that there's some preparation. And then we do have sight reading that says, yes, I'm not just learning by ear, but I can read this music and I'm able to be successful because that is ultimately the goal is we want whoever's coming into our band, we want them to be successful and we want to have them a positive experience. And so, what we're looking for is musicians that are able to continue to play at an intermediate to a higher level. Not everything that we play is professional symphony quality. We do play stock charts. They're sometimes more geared toward high school bands because the challenge that we have is sometimes we are playing a lot of music, but we don't need all of that music to be extremely challenging. We need that music to connect. We need that music to touch different lives. And if I have if I'm a kid who's just starting out in band and I'm coming to my first NFL game because dad dragged me along, but I see the band like, hey, I know that song. I'm now a Ravens fan because the band played my, song that I know. So we do play a wide range of pieces, and we try to we want musicians that are going to be successful, that have a passion for music and a love for football probably would be a good thing too. But ultimately, it is about the music in this environment, and whether you're a football fan or not, you kind of become one just because. I, I don't know how you get in this environment and you don't become a football fan. But we have folks who are coming from West Virginia, obviously Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware. I believe we have someone from Virginia right now. We've had someone from New Jersey. Uh, Strangely enough, we had someone making a trip from North Carolina for a while to be part of the band. So we do have it is from all over the place, and we have folks who are fresh out of high school, and we have folks who are working on looking at retirement in that next chapter of life. So it is all age groups. It is all backgrounds. We have some folks who had never marched. We have some folks who have just finished their college careers and are, fresh marchers, and so we are looking for a wide range of abilities, and we want you to be successful is the ultimate goal.
There's one thing about recruitment, so people know this is not a full-time job. We've had people call us up and say, hey, they think they're going to, get a full-time job. It's a seasonal part-time job. You're a part-time seasonal employee of the Baltimore Ravens. And again, it's just part-time. We do pay. So like I said, there's nothing you're going to make a living off of. Love, but like I'd love to have you come out and be with us and audition with us.
Truly, this has been such a fantastic conversation. Thank you for pulling the curtain back and welcoming us into your world. What do you hope listeners take away about the Marching Ravens after today's conversation?
To me, like I said, to get the word out there about us, that we do exist, and get more and more friends to the Marching Ravens and get people that are interested in coming out and being part of us. We welcome them to come out and audition. The auditions will be probably end of March, beginning of April. And right now it's one day. And like I said, if they're interested, they email me at John.Ziemann, Ziemann, at ravens.nfl.net. So, and like I said, and I'll be glad to get back to people. With any musicians that is really interested. We also have an equipment crew that's a unit of the band. So give me email shout. And I appreciate everybody, like I said, that's tuned into this broadcast. Thank you.
This has been incredible. For young musicians listening, what would you say to inspire them to pick up their instrument or to keep going with music?
You have no idea where your journey might lead you. And any opportunity that you can take can open the door to another opportunity, to another one. And but every opportunity that you don't take is one that you will look back and say, man, I wish I would have, or I wonder if I could have. And this is an opportunity that sometimes might get overlooked because we look at it is a long season, going from April, May to whenever we are finished, whether that's the Super Bowl or playoffs or sometime before. So it's a long season. But at the same time, you are able to continue being a musician. You don't have to be scared about it. Sometimes I think that folks will go, oh, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Don't second guess yourself. You need to prepare. You need to make sure it's the right fit for you. But take every opportunity because you never know what it might lead to. And there's some really good connections that you can make here with Ravens Band because of this vast community that we have. So if you're a young person who's um, playing and thinking, oh, after school is no way, there's no place to play. Yeah, there's lots of community bands in Maryland, lots of community bands out there. We are a great outlet for those who love the marching arts. If you're an adult who's not been playing for a while and want to get into the swing of it, get a horn out. Just start playing, see what happens. Make some, squeak some clarinet or saxophone reeds. You'll get back into the swing of it, and take a look at our music. Sign up for the music and for the audition. Take a look at it. We are not trying to scare folks away with it or challenge them too much. We just want to make sure that we have folks who can play the music and will be successful. And you put a little work into it, even if you've not played for a while, you can find that success. Just dust it off and give yourself credit.
Truly, John, Dan, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today. Living here in Nashville, I'm chasing the songwriter dream and I love songwriting and everything that it stands for. But for so many of us, it all began in a school band, picking up an instrument, joining a choir, hearing a performance at our first football game, and it has stuck with us ever since. And so it was truly an honor getting to invite you guys on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Been a lot of fun, Paige. And Paige, when you coming out? We got to come on, get the clarinet out, get the reed on. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, please call me out. I actually dug my clarinet out of the closet the other
Good.
day after we spoke on the phone, and I'm like, I gotta see if I can still play this thing. I can
You
still make
can.
some sound. Yeah.
That's right. You can. All right. You do a little bit each day, maybe not even each day, 5, 10 minutes, a couple days, and you're gonna fantastic. You're gonna be awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a little bit, dust it off. You'll be good.
Oh
Auditions
my
are in
gosh.
April.
It's
End of March,
auditions.
April. Yeah.
I love it. And it was such a fantastic experience, just speaking from personal experience. I am so happy I did it. I put it off for a couple years auditioning because I was like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, and I was super nervous about it. But once I was able to join the group and got to participate in all the fantastic work that they do and getting to be a part of game day, and it was something I'll cherish forever. And so I encourage anyone who's interested, it's well worth it. It's a whirlwind. It's a yes that you didn't know existed. And so I definitely encourage you looking more into it. John shared his email, and there's also a Baltimore website where people can find out more information as well, right?
Yes.
Perfect. All of that information is going to be linked down below for anyone interested in auditioning or learning more or even just becoming a fan. Like if you're not a fan of the Ravens team, you can still be a fan of the Ravens band and you can follow them along. So again, thank you so much for the time. This was fantastic.
Been an honor.
Thanks for
And
having us.
incredible. Well, if this is your first time tuning into the So Rude podcast, please make sure to subscribe and follow along on whatever platform it is that you're tuning in, whether that's Apple Podcast, Spotify, or YouTube. We have the audio versions online as well as the video version on YouTube. By supporting the show and subscribing along, it helps me welcome the incredible guests that are so generous with their time to come and share their stories and their journeys and their messages. And for any creative out there who's passionate about music, just finding things that interest you and participating and playing along, it's a lifelong journey and something that you don't need to put down. So thank you so much for tuning into the So Rude podcast. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll chat again soon. Bye now. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with every episode. See you next time.